doorbell cam caught it all, a woman in a sash that read Welcome Committee jamming a Tupperware at my chest like a subpoena. "Refuse the brownies," she hissed, "and you refuse the neighborhood." I said, "No thanks, I'm fasting." She threw her head back and bellowed to the cul-de-sac, "I have no respect," as if she'd just discovered gravity and taken it personally. I'm Malcolm Hart, a quiet technical writer who moved to Foxglove Court in Lake Wren to mind my own rosemary and keep my porch light set to mellow. I pay dues, wave politely, and own exactly one loud thing, a blender. Enter our HOA's self-appointed morale dictator, Priscilla Door, chair of something called the Hospitality and Civility Subcommittee, HCS, pronounced like a sneeze. Her hobbies include clipboards, scripture-length emails, and making friendliness compulsory. Priscilla began her campaign with pastel flyers. Snack solidarity, refusal breeds division. Then came the citations. Violation A-12, hostility through food denial. That was me declining a mini muffin on video. Violation D-3, curtly toned doorbell interaction. I said no, thank you twice. Violation P-7, political display. My NO soliciting sign, apparently radical. She started appearing at odd hours with assorted platters, narrating into her phone like a nature documentary. "Observe the male homeowner rejecting community nutrients," she would say. She leaned over my fence to sniff my grill, notes of antisocial cumin, spread rumors that I was withholding snacks to create a hostile carbohydrate environment, and launched an HCS respect audit, which was just her and a measuring tape to assess smile curvature. The violations didn't stop there. She created an entire binder system, color-coded by offense severity. Pink for snack refusal, yellow for insufficient enthusiasm, red for what she termed aggressive neutrality. One afternoon, she knocked on my door holding a plate of cookies and a tablet. She'd made a PowerPoint presentation titled The Psychology of Shared Consumption, complete with pie charts showing how my refusals were allegedly affecting neighborhood morale scores. I didn't even know we had neighborhood morale scores. Turns out, we didn't. She'd invented them, complete with a formula that somehow factored in my driveway's angle of incline and the wattage of my porch bulb. She started hosting what she called mandatory mingling Mondays in her front yard, where she'd set up folding tables loaded with casseroles and guilt. Attendance was never actually mandatory, but she'd stand at the end of each driveway with a clipboard, marking down who showed up and who didn't. I made the mistake of walking past once to get my mail. She intercepted me with a chinette plate of something beige and told me, in front of 6 neighbors, that my participation was crucial to maintaining the social fabric of Foxglove Court. I told her I had a work call. She wrote something down and said, "We'll note that as prioritizing employment over community." Then came the emails. Long, rambling manifestos sent at 3 in the morning with subject lines like urgent, snack crisis update and your doorstep demeanor, a breakdown. One email included a map of the neighborhood with my house circled in red marker, labeled Ground Zero, Hospitality Resistance. Another contained a quiz titled, "Are you a team player or a snack saboteur?" with questions like, if a neighbor offers you a baked good, do you A, accept graciously, B, decline politely but incorrectly, or C, destroy community trust? There was no option D. The whole thing felt like living inside a satire I couldn't escape. Every morning I'd check the doorbell footage to see if she'd left another violation notice tucked into my screen door. One morning it was a citation for what she called insufficient porch eye contact. I hadn't even been outside. She'd apparently recorded me looking down at my phone while bringing in groceries and determined that my gaze trajectory demonstrated quote community disengagement unquote. Another time, she stood at the end of my driveway with a clipboard and stopwatch, timing how long it took me to acknowledge her wave. When I finally looked up after grabbing my mail, she shook her head dramatically and scribbled something down. I later found out she'd logged it as a 2.7-second delay, which she claimed was quote statistically hostile unquote. My neighbors started giving me sympathetic looks, the kind you give someone whose car alarm won't stop. A few tried to warn me quietly. One guy named Dave whispered while trimming his hedges that Priscilla had once tried to fine him for quote uncoordinated holiday lighting unquote. Another neighbor, Linda, told me Priscilla had shown up at her door with a petition to ban her wind chimes for creating quote acoustic interference with community conversations unquote. Everyone had a story. Everyone had learned to just smile, nod, and accept whatever baked goods she shoved at them. But I'm stubborn, and I don't respond well to people who treat courtesy like a subscription service. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. I was working from home, on a video call with a client, when I heard rustling outside my window. I glanced over and there was Priscilla, crouched in my bushes with her phone out, filming. When I opened the window and asked what she was doing, she stood up calmly and said she was conducting a wellness audit to ensure I was utilizing my living space in a quote community-aligned manner unquote. I told her to get off my property. She said my tone was proof I needed a snack intervention and that she'd be back with reinforcements. Priscilla escalated from petty to felon adjacent. She posted QR codes labeled snack penalty payment portal, claiming non-compliant residents owed a $75 civility fee remitted per HOA policy. The QR led to a Venmo with her maiden name and a profile pic of a beach margarita. Then she tried a wellness check, which looked a lot like trespassing, letting herself through my side gate to verify pantry contents for community harmony. I called the non-emergency line and forwarded footage to the property management company. Bonus twist. My day job is writing compliance frameworks for a municipal procurement contractor. I speak fluent policy. Her fake civility fee notice? It referenced statutes that don't exist and an HOA bylaw page that does, in another state. I spent the next few days quietly building my case. I pulled every doorbell video, every email, every printed flyer she'd left. I cross-referenced her citations against the actual HOA governing documents and found that not a single violation code she'd invented actually existed. The Hospitality and Civility Subcommittee? Also fabricated. There was no record of it in any official HOA minutes. I created a timeline, a spreadsheet, and a folder of documentation that would make any auditor weep with joy. When I contacted the property management company, I didn't rant or complain. I simply attached my files and wrote, I believe there may be some unauthorized activity occurring under the HOA's name. I think you'll want to review this. The management company responded within 24 hours. They'd never heard of the HCS. They'd never approved any civility fees. And when they looked into Priscilla's Venmo, they found she'd collected over $4,000 from residents who'd been too intimidated to question her. One elderly couple had paid her 3 separate times because she kept showing up with new invoices. A single mom paid because Priscilla told her non-compliance would affect her kids' access to the neighborhood pool, which wasn't even true because the pool was public and managed by the county. I also reached out to a few neighbors individually, the ones who'd whispered their own Priscilla stories. Turns out, she'd been doing this for over a year. Dave had paid $150 in fake landscaping coordination fees. Linda had been bullied into donating to a quote community beautification fund unquote that was just another Venmo account in Priscilla's name. Another neighbor showed me a text thread where Priscilla had threatened to report him to code enforcement for an unauthorized garden gnome unless he attended her mandatory mingling Mondays. None of them had thought to report her because she always made it sound official, always referenced policies that didn't exist but sounded plausible enough to scare people into compliance. Management looped in Lake Wren PD and the State Consumer Protection Unit. An officer and a city code investigator visited me, saw the doorbell videos, scanned the QR, and said that deeply calming phrase, "We'll handle it." At the next HOA meeting, I arrived with a small projector, 3 printed binders, and a smile curved to regulation. Priscilla started with her usual opening, I think we can all agree snacks are the currency of kindness, when the investigator asked if her Venmo was registered as an HOA account. It was not. The room inhaled as a single organism. We rolled footage. Priscilla thrusting brownies, me declining, her shrieking I have no respect in full Dolby, then the side gate trespass and the QR code shakedown. The investigator slid over a letter. Cease and desist for deceptive practices, plus a demand for transaction records. The officer read off the hits: criminal trespass, attempted theft by deception, and misuse of HOA insignia. The management rep announced immediate removal of Priscilla from all committees and a forensic review of HCS donations. Neighbors, previously cowed by her casserole regime, began muttering. Someone clapped. Someone else coughed snack mafia. Priscilla tried a final flourish, I was protecting community morale, and the officer replied, "Ma'am, morale doesn't have a Venmo." The room erupted. Dave stood up and said he wanted his money back. Linda asked if she could press charges. The elderly couple who'd paid 3 times looked like they might cry with relief. Priscilla's face went from indignant red to panicked white in about 4 seconds. She tried to argue that everything she did was for the good of the neighborhood, that people were happier when they participated, that she'd built a sense of community. The management rep cut her off and said, "You built a shakedown operation with Tupperware." The officer informed her that she'd be receiving formal charges within the week and that she needed to provide a full accounting of every transaction. Priscilla looked around the room for support and found none. The same neighbors who'd smiled nervously at her mandatory mingling Mondays were now glaring. Someone yelled, "You made my kid cry because we didn't bring brownies to your 4th of July thing." Another person said, "You told me my mailbox was a community hazard and charged me $40 to repaint it." The floodgates opened. Person after person stood up with their own story of Priscilla's manufactured violations and fake fees. The meeting that was supposed to last an hour stretched to nearly 3 as the management company took notes and the investigator collected names for witness statements. 2 weeks later, residents received refunds from the seized HCS fund, line item, civility fee illegitimate, and a new policy: no food solicitation at doorsteps, no QR codes, no tape measuring smiles. Priscilla accepted a plea deal: restitution, 12 months probation, and 80 hours of community service, ironically assigned to the county food bank, where she must wear a vest that says respect, not required, and complete training on consent and solicitation rules. The new Hospitality Committee brings welcome packets with a directory and a map. No muffins. Peace returns to Foxglove Court, flavored lightly with schadenfreude. If your kindness requires a cover charge, it's not kindness. Also, don't weaponize brownies. The carbs always boomerang.